adoration to him as always. And I will, of course, should I say, unfailingly pray in the language of heaven. Some may misunderstand, some of them may try to misconstrue, but one thing is certain right now, in the presence of the Almighty God, Elohim, Adonai, El Shaddai in heaven, the angels are singing, worshiping, and praising the Most High with the very oldest language on the face of this very earth, the Igbo language. And that's how I'm going to pray. Ezi onye nwe anyị na Chineke nna nke pụrụ m ihe niile, Chukwu okike abịa ma bụ onye anyị na-efe na-agọzi aha nsọ ya, onye ọbụla anyị ya na-achị, onye mmụọ na mmadụ na-erubere isi, onye ọbụla anyị ya bụ ọka aka ụbọchị onye ka anyị na-etuga eze ebube dị ngọzi, mmalite na ọgwụgwụ ndị Igbo wee tụọ oge ebighị ebi. Onye nwe m, ụmụ gị wee gbakọọ n'ụwa niile iwe na ozi ọma nke gị onwe gị n'ezi ha dị n'ọnụ mmadụ dị ndụ na nke ebere dị ngọzi. Anyị wee na-asị na onwe ihe ọbụla nke anyị nwe anyị bụ n'ihi na ọ bụ anakwa ahụ sọsọ ka mmadụ dị ndụ bụ ofu ụbọchị anyị ga-anwụ, maka na okwu nsọ gị na-adịghị ma ruo mgbe ebighị, n'ihi na okwu gị niile ga-abịarịrị na mmezu. Ọ bịa nwere Biafra ga-eji wee bịa na mgbe nke anyị. Anyị wee na-akpọkụ wee na-arịọ gị na-asị lekwa ude nke anyị na-asụ n'akwa nke anyị na-ebe ka o metụta gị n'obi. Onye nwe m na Chineke nna nke igwe, biko m dịka isi wee napụta ụmụ gị n'ọbụ n'Ijipt otu wee wezuga ụmụ gị bụ ndị Biafra mgbe ekwensu bụ zuu nke mmadụ dị ndụ kere. Anyị wee na-aja gị mma, na-asị gị n'ime ọnọdụ anyị anyị ga-ekele ha nsọ gị, wee nye gị nsọpụrụ nke na-eji ama mgbe niile, n'ihi na anyị enweghị ịchọ ọzọ ewezuga gị. Anyị nwe anyị anaghị efe arụsị. Ọbịa mere iji wee na-agọzi nsọgbukwu anyị niile. Ọbịa mere IPOB ji wee gbaa ngwọrọgwụ n'ụwa niile. Anyị anaghị atụ egwu mmadụ dị ndụ. Anyị wee na-eto gị eze ebube dị ngọzi, sị gị biko gbatara anyị ọsọ enyemaka. Ọ bụ naanị gị bụ onye anyị na-efe nwa akwa isi ala nye ka i wee napụta ndị gị n'ọbụ nke ekwensu. Anyị wee na-enye gị ofe na nsọpụrụ na ija mma, na-asị lekwa ka ndị iro anyị niile ka kasisi wee gbaa ha ọnụ, ha wee daa hapụrụ igomi ọzọ. Obodo ekwensu bụ zu ala ọkwa n'ihi eze ebube dị ngọzi. Anya ọnwa anyị bụ ụmụ gị wee na-akpọkọ ha nsọ gị, na-asị na ebeghị iche ọzọ egwezuga gị. Anyị wee na-aja gị mma wee na-eto gị, na-asị onye kere ihe niile kere eke mana nwere onye kere na n'otuto niile na nsọpụrụ niile na ịja mma niile site n'ebighị ebi mara onye bụ nke a na-ajọ gị. Ise ise ise. Having handed over our proceedings to heaven, we must therefore proceed unfailingly and very speedily to preach this very gospel that we have been mandated to preach.
Welcome, my amazing viewers. Thank you so much for joining me on my program once again. I appreciate you wherever you are connecting from. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please kindly subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell so that you'll be notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you so much. And remember, in this channel, we preach love. We talk about the plight of the people in the contraption called Nigeria. We are not preaching hate speech. What we are saying is live and let's live. And for those who have said that we will not live, they will not live either. We are not preaching against any tribe, neither are we preaching against anybody, neither are we calling names on anybody, but we are saying the truth exactly the way it is without being politically correct. We bring the information raw the way it is. If you go to the conventional media, they might try to paint some good evil and paint some evil good, try to paint things and make things mild, not telling us the exact situation. But on social media, in this very platform, we say it the way it is. That is why each time you watch my video, you go to the comment section to add your own opinion. Say your own views. Express yourself the way you want it. Whatever be your own contribution, put it down. It's all welcome. If you want to criticize, you can criticize constructively so that we can be able to understand from each other. Nobody knows it all. We are putting our heads together to find a solution to the problem that have bedeviled the contraption called Nigeria. That is what we are fighting for. That is what we stand for. We speak the truth, say it the way it is. And each time you watch, please kindly share the video. Share the video to your family and friends. Share it to well-wishers. Share it to those who need to see and hear from us and hear the truth about the situation of the contraption called Nigeria. For those who choose to believe lies, they can go ahead and continue to believe the lies. But here, we speak the truth. We say it the way it is, the truth and nothing but the truth. That is what we do here. And we will continue to do so until Biafra is actualized. Today, we have to dig deep on the discussion they are making today. You see what is on their front border in their news today. We are talking about VAT, value added tax. This very thing, value added tax, has now revealed more reason why we should walk out of this very contraption. It is not doing anybody any good. It is not doing anybody any good. In a place where you will create states that cannot be able to, that are not viable, a state that cannot take care of itself. Instead, you stifle the other states steal from the other state to give a state that doesn't produce anything to make them continue to exist. For God's sake, why did you create the state in the first place? Why did you have to create a state when you know that that state cannot be able to sustain itself? Why do you have to create a state when you know the state will not sustain itself? And this thing is most commonly in the north because of the northernization strategy. This is how they peddle all manner of fake numbers and fake statistics in the north to make us believe that the north is viable, that the north is stronger, that the north have more population. All is lie. And the most painful thing, that the people that started this lie, that led into the foundation of lie, is Britain. The British have done a lot of damage in the life of the indigenous tribe of Nigeria to make sure that we do not succeed. But today, thank God, everybody have woken up. Everybody have woken up. Now people are speaking boldly, demanding for that which is right to demand for. But the most important thing to demand for is referendum, so that every man in the street will have a say in what is about to happen. That is why we are calling for referendum. The contraption called Nigeria is built on lie, a very falsehood, strong falsehood. See the fact issue. Thank God, all of a sudden, God is using some people to speak about what is happening. The monster in River State, the Hitler in River State is now asking that he should be allowed to collect the VAT of his state to invest it the way he wants to invest it. Lagos State is pursuing likewise. Why would somebody go against such a thing? That is the right thing to do. Every state should use what is gotten in their own state to be able to finance their state and make things work. If you know your state is not viable, why must you ever go and create the state? And all the states that were created, you can see, we are created by this Janjaweed to spy the southern part of Nigeria, to make sure the southern part of Nigeria begin to see themselves as few, not knowing that it is the southern part of Nigeria that is financing all those illegal states that were created in the north. Every illegal state created in the north is being financed by the south. They are taking oil from the south. It's not enough for them. Going to share money in Abuja, it's not enough for them. They are still taking VAT, value added tax, that people pay in every state. They collect it and they send it to Abuja to share to other states. States that produce nothing. There are so many of them that produce nothing. They have nothing to add to this very one Nigeria they're talking about. They have nothing to add, and they are states existing. Today, the game have changed. States are now asking that they should be allowed to use their VAT, collect their VAT by themselves, without anybody intruding. And that is the right thing to do. But my fear is that it is not going to hold water, and it is not going to work, because in a contraption called Nigeria, there is nothing you can do against the North that works, because they are all working for the Northerners. And believe you me, the reason why this issue of VAT came up might be because of the 23 election. Not genuine. They were not genuine. Those people you see asking for that VAT in the southern part of Nigeria are not genuinely asking for it. They are asking for it because of 2023 election. And as soon as their own bid is being given, either they are given a vice president or whatever the demand is being given, they will drop that very issue of VAT, and you will never hear about it again. That has been the game of the Janjaweed. That has been the game of the Janjaweed. Now the politicians in southeastern part of in the southern part of Nigeria is still their game. They try to use one thing or the other. A legitimate thing they have to fight for your own people. You use it to bargain for your own selfish interest. Some of them use it to bargain for your post. Instead of fighting for their people, they use that, which is legitimate to fight for, and bargain for their own post, for their own personal interest, and not for the people. Today, the debate on VAT is going on. And I'm surprised that even no southeastern governor is speaking about the issue of VAT. He's not talking about it. Knowing fully well that southeastern states, even from beginning till now, they have been funding themselves. There is no federal government presence in the southeastern part of Nigeria. So why should they even talk of collecting VAT from southeastern part of Nigeria? Why should anybody give them anything, give them that hand to begin to collect tax from southeastern part of Nigeria, when you have no single federal government presence? The southeastern part of Nigeria were the people that were supposed to raise this very issue, not even Wike, but they never did, because they don't care. They only care about themselves. They only care about themselves. They don't bring any strong argument to the table. They don't bring any strong argument. Just like when they were talking about restructuring. Mazin Dandekano told them, go ahead with your restructuring. Why am I pursuing my referendum? When you bring me restructuring, then I will look and consider if I am going to follow you or not. Instead of them going to fight for that restructuring, what did they do? They turn around to bring military to come and kill the Australian Mazin Dandekano. This is what you see in the southeastern part of Nigeria. They can never bring anything strong to the table. They can never do anything to favor their people. All they do is things that works against their own people. They do it again and again and again. Today, the issue of VAT has been discussed. It have now revealed again that Northerners cannot survive without the South. You see them when they were boasting of feeding the South. They were boasting of feeding the South, boycotting food from coming to the South. At the end of the day, what happened? Every food they stopped bringing from the cow decayed in their land because they themselves cannot eat it, neither can they buy it. It was destroyed. In fact, again, you have seen people who are telling us that we must allow their cow to graze in our land cannot even be able to control their own area. They cannot even be able to raise funds. That is why they are forcing everything from the federal government boss to build ruga for them, to build livestock, to build whatever they want to build. Very dependent. Everything, they are so dependent they cannot do anything for themselves. Just like the so-called late Muhammad Buhari. Late Muhammad Buhari have never done anything for himself. Neither has he done anything for Nigeria. Everything he owns and he has was done for him by that one Nigeria. It was one Nigeria that trained him. One Nigeria gave him a job. One Nigeria fed him, trained his children. One Nigeria still feeding him up. Even when he was out of power, one Nigeria was still taking care of him. And today, here he is. Still basing on one Nigeria to feed him. He left office with 50 cows. Up to today, as I'm speaking to you, those cows are still 50. They have not increased. That 50 cows are still there. They have not increased. He didn't even increase himself to go back to school and study. He never did. But foolishly, it's so pitiable that even the people in the southern part of Nigeria, the people that went to his farm to call him, where he was rearing his cow, to call him to come and become a president. Here are we today. Everywhere is destroyed. Nothing can be amended. Nothing can be reconciled with. The issue of VAT is the right thing to ask for. Every state should be allowed to invest their revenue in their state. If you know your state is not viable, close up the state, go back to wherever you're coming from. This is how they splitted everybody, divide every state and make sure that people are confused. And when you see them creating a state in the north, you would think that they have a meaningful thing to offer. A state that cannot be able to sustain itself for a month. Yet they call it a state. You take allocation because of every time they go to Abuja to share money. The oil money they are taking from the coastal land of Biafra. They use the coastal money from the coastal land of Biafra to be sponsoring states that are not viable. And the very place where they are taking this oil from, where they're taking the oil from, there is no road. There is no light. There is no housing. There is nothing to write home about the area. And somebody tell me, more especially our brother from the coastal part of Nigeria, you will still be, you see them speaking about one Nigeria. You see somebody from coastal Biafra speaking about one Nigeria. When you give everything you have and receive nothing. You go to coastal and Biafra, you still see people living on top of water. You see people who cannot feed, have three square meal. You see people who doesn't have anything at all to lay their head upon. In a place where the wealth of the country is being gotten from and given to those who cannot offer anything. It wasn't enough. Recently, even before their own very eye, the 5% that was given to them was sliced down to 3%. And 30% was given to those who doesn't have oil. They say that people who have a hope of having oil in the future. Who does that? Who does that? All these crimes are being committed before your own very eye. Yet, some people still say they don't want to go home. You still see some people from coastal Biafra talking against Biafra. You see people in the southern part of Nigeria talking against Oduduwa, talking against Biafra. With all this impunity and crimes against humanity happening in that very contraption. May God have mercy on you all. When you begin to think about the issue of Nigeria, you now understand why our Sunni Amazin Nadekano is shouting, abusing, and cursing people online whenever he comes. When he talks about the brain of a black man, when he explains this and talk about it, now you see the reason why he's speaking in such manner. with everything that is happening in Nigeria, it's obvious. You still see people bent on speaking on one Nigeria. Some are even preparing for election again. Some are preparing themselves for election again. Although already it has been announced that there will be no election in Biafra land. It doesn't matter how they think about it. It doesn't matter how they do it. It doesn't matter the kind of plan they have. There will be no election in Biafra land. If you come out for election in Biafra land, you pay with your life. If you come out for election, either to supervise, either to transport, either to participate, either whatever you want to do that has to do with election in Biafra land, starting from Anambra State, you pay with your life. The government of Janjaweed must surely kill you because Biafrans will not participate, and they will try to prove a point by killing you to frame people. So try it, participate, and you will see yourself. You see yourself in the grave. This has been the situation. Fact. Let people use whatever task that is gotten in their place to function and be able to rule themselves and be able to control themselves. That is the right thing to do. It's a good fight. But the people who are fighting that fight are fighting it for selfish interest. Election is coming. Beware and be very careful. Let us hear the arguments they have on channel television about this very fact. Let's hear what you see. In everything, Nigeria will always have their own meaning. In every English language, they have their own. Nigeria has their own different kind of meaning for things. So let's watch what they have to say on channel television.
The state and not the Federal Inland Revenue Service should be collecting value-added tax, VAT, and personal income tax. So today, the Federal Inland Revenue Service of Nigeria says it has appealed the judgment of the Federal High Court in Rivers State, which held that the agency does not have the right to collect tax in the state. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, a group lead special tax operation at the FRS, Mr. Matthew Bogunbola insists that it is the exclusive right of the Federal Inland Revenue Service to collect all value-added tax in the country. Take a listen to him.
VAT cannot work at subnational level. And there is no country in the world where VAT works at subnational level. And the reason is because VAT depends on the input-output mechanism. And just to illustrate this, for example, assuming a business person bought an item, let's say in Osun State, and paid VAT, and takes the goods to, let's say, Sokoto State to sell. Remember, this business person had paid VAT when purchasing the product in Osun State. And when selling in Sokoto State, it will charge VAT. And by the operation of the input-output mechanism, this business person will deduct the input tax paid in Osun State from the output tax charged in Sokoto State and remit any difference to the relevant tax authority. In this case, because there is a single tax authority handling VAT, it is the same authority that received the VAT in Osun State that will receive the additional VAT payable in Sokoto State. And so it is easy to work out the input-output mechanism, and there is no issue of the business person being shortchanged. There's no issue of consumers having to pay VAT more than once. I can confirm to you that FRS indeed had approached the appellate court to review the judgment at the lower court, at the Federal Court of Appeal in Rivers. And I think I'll just leave it at that. So be assured that FRS has filed an appeal, and that one is in process, and that is why we are not able to speak. I am not aware that FRS has presented any bill to the National Assembly to request for any social media tax. And I can tell you on behalf of my executive chairman very clearly, this is not from us. So if there's any such bill at the National Assembly, FRS is not a sponsor, and we have not seen it. And if we see it, we are able to comment appropriately.
You heard it. So today, earlier today that is, the governor of Rivers State, who is at the forefront of all of this, had gone to court and in fact has signed a bill into law, the VAT bill in Rivers State, stating how Rivers State will be collecting VAT. Today he was insistent on the fact that Rivers State will continue to collect. Lagos State has joined that conversation. States like Akwa Ibom, Adamawa State has also joined the conversation. Invariably, it means that if this is happening and the 36 states of the Federation collects this VAT, the federal government, the FRS, will be losing about 2.4 trillion naira. Should it lose the appeal at the court? Take a listen to the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, earlier today.
Would you not like to survive? I'm not the author of the Constitution. I'm not the author. I was not one of those who participated in it. I was not one of those. Take, for example, I give out a contract for the development of my state. Roads, say 200 billion naira. Take, for example. What is the business of federal government to come and collect 7.5% of the road I have given out in my state? Not even federal roads, as it may be. In my own state, local roads that I have awarded to companies in my state. So federal government takes 7.5% of 200 billion naira and distributes amongst the states. So what encourages me to go and give out that contract? So you allow me to come and call the BB companies, award contract to them, then you come and collect the tax, and go and distribute it to other states who are not awarding contracts. I mean, how does it sound? How does it sound? I'm not even talking about the ones that we have not awarded. The ones this is Rivers State government awarding 200 billion naira job. Somebody somewhere sits in his office and said, collect 7.5. Then distribute it to those states that have not awarded contracts. And you say that is equitable? That is justice? What are we challenging? Rivers State government is challenging VAT. I mean FRS. Stop collecting VAT in my state. I am not challenging you not to collect VAT in Abuja. Let it be understood now. I'm challenging you that the law says I am the one to collect. Rivers State government is to collect VAT in their own state. So where is the jurisdiction first? The jurisdiction is within Rivers State.
So tonight, let's unbox this for you. That's what we do right here, to give you as a citizen the perspective that you need to make the right decision. You perhaps are living in Rivers State or Lagos State and Akwa Ibom or Adamawa State. Any of these states are also contemplating following through in the way Rivers State have gone, and you're probably confused on how you can go about paying this VAT. FRS had contested it and gone to the appeal court. So we have two gentlemen for you to give insight into it. The legal angle and, of course, the technical taxation angle of it. So I have joining me virtually two of them. I have Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, is a fiscal policy partner and Africa tax leader at the PwC. He's a taxation expert. He joins us from Lagos. And from London is a lawyer, Mr. Kayode Ajula. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. Quickly, my audience on this program, they might not be the ones with those mathematical or the deep economic understanding. And that's why I like us to break it down in an easy-to-digest format. Mr. Oyedele, let's hear you. First and foremost, give us a sense of what this means. VAT is what people pay when they consume or render services, isn't it?
Yes, you're right. Thank you very much. So value-added tax is the tax you pay when you consume goods and services, including sometimes intellectual property rights, if they are not described as exempt or zero-rated. So if I want to simplify that, if you buy bread, if you buy beans, if you buy rice, those are considered to be basic food items, so they're exempt, so you don't pay VAT. If you buy a mobile phone, if you pay for your airtime, those are not exempted, so you have to pay VAT at the national level, 7.5%. And then we're now seeing different rates coming up from different states. So essentially, this is a tax that affects everybody, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, it has an impact on you.
So basically, it was jacked up from 5% to 7.5%. And of course, in this sense, how generally is this the tax that are being collected? How has it been distributed in the country? It goes to the federal government coffers, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. And just to also clarify a point that you made in the introduction. So currently, VAT is shared 50% to states, 35% to local governments, and 15% to the federal government. Now, the federal government will not lose money if this position is sustained for states to start collecting. Reason being that last year, FRS collected 1.53 trillion from VAT. Out of that, import VAT, international VAT was about 51%. The Federal Capital Territory collected 202 billion naira and only shared about 35 billion, also plus the local government. So FCT donated about 166 billion. If everyone start collecting VAT within their territory, federal government would actually be collecting about 60% of the VAT, even though they are taking 15%. So this is actually the biggest winner, to be honest, would be the federal government. But the question is whether that is the right thing for us to do as a country. Even if we decide to share the amount that the federal government collects using the federation account ratio, you still have federal government taking 52% of 60%. That's more than 30%, more than twice what they are taking at the moment. So really, the conversation, in my view, is that the way the VAT is being shared is not equitable because 20%, only 20% is shared based on derivation. 50% and 30% are shared based on equality and population. So that is why you find the likes of Rivers State and Lagos State and a few other states feeling like they are contributing so much, but they are getting so little. But at the end of the day, we have to think about what is the best format of VAT system for Nigeria. Like the FRS said, there are so many federations around the world that have VAT. They do not operate it at the state level. There are countries like Canada. They have both federal and provincial goods and services tax. Countries like Brazil. Brazil has a federal VAT, and they have state sales tax and services tax. The US has only sales tax at the state level. So it's not a question of copying and pasting from somewhere. We have to look for what is the most appropriate structure for Nigeria that does not create problems for small and large businesses, and more importantly, for the people. And to my mind, that format is a format that we legislate the tax centrally, we collect it centrally, but we use data and information to ensure that all the VAT collected from a particular state is given to that state 100%. And the only thing we're going to be sharing is the VAT on imports, VAT on international services, and VAT on federal government contracts.
Thank you, Mr. Oyedele. Please stay with me. Let me go over to London with Mr. Kayode Ajulo. Because this matter is also sub judice, so carefully we need to thread so that we're not working on landmines. But I mean, you're a senior lawyer, so you understand better. So give us a sense of what the law specifies, because VAT is governed by the Value Added Tax Act. It's been amended. But does the law specify who collects, who's to collect? Has there been any ambiguity in the law on who to collect VAT?
Well, thank you very much. I thank you very much. Caution first has to be taken in discussing this matter, particularly since the matter is before the court, and one should be careful not to be found wanting in area of being subjudice. Now, the issue as it is so clear. the issue the issue today as it is that when it comes to issue of tax, it has to do basically by the federal government. That's why you see that the exclusive list of our that's the schedule of the Constitution is so clear that it is in exclusive list. But there's a lacuna. When it comes to VAT, I think we should stop mentioning this word VAT so that Nigerian people can understand it very well. When it comes to issue of goods and services, VAT is service based on consumable goods and sales tax. Once it's on that, the law is silent on it. And going by the Federal Inland Revenue Services Act, the law is silenced too on who to collect that. And as it is, and I like you said, we need a legal perspective on it. As it is today, the Rivers State and some other states, they are having their own laws to administer and the collection of tax. So as it is, that is the position of the law. And that is why the court, as of today, has already allowed the state to have this. Now, considering what everybody is saying, the FRS may say this is what has been happening. But one thing that is so clear is that we have been talking about restructuring in the country for some time. Nigeria is a country built with our law, and then equity and justice. And if the equity of it has to be, the essence is that where it is consumed, because when it comes to tax and VAT law, it is about that's geolocation. The location of the place has to be taken into consideration, and the effect, like what the governor of Rivers State mentioned some minutes ago, that he can be awarding contract and the tax will be taken from there. And the essence of tax, we know, is to administer the area, the location. So as it is, though the matter is still in court, but the law that is enforced today is that the FRS cannot administer that collection of that tax, and that is the law.
Give us a sense, because when we talk about equity and fairness in the distribution of the collection of its tax, will any state be collecting less than it's presently collecting should the Federal Inland Revenue Service lose this case at the Supreme Court or at the Appeal Court, whichever be the case?
Well, as it is, again, God forbid that as a lawyer I should be speculating what the court will say, whether it will lose or not. But the extant law, as it is this: there's no law that empower the Federal Inland Revenue to collect VAT. That is one. And as it is, Rivers State already has its law that empower the state to collect that tax. And when it comes to administration of tax, it is the it is who empowers you that makes you to do what it is. So in the eyes of the law, who can empower, who can administer that tax, that collection of tax, is the state and as given by their law. Though, and when you talked about the equity of it is so clear. Like I said, we have several taxes in the country. We have the company taxes, petroleum taxes, capital taxes, all that. Nobody has issue on that. But when it comes to consumption taxes, particularly when it comes to sales taxes, in which what matters most is the location. I know someone from the Federal Inland Revenue mentioned about if somebody take something to another state, I want to believe that one is imposed. We are talking of consumption. Where is it consumed? That is what matters, and that's the way we should look at it. And the equity of it, like I mentioned earlier, that for some time we'll be talking of restructuring in the country. We're talking of physical federalism. This, and I want to say, is the essence of the physical federalism, that where you work, whatever you do, that is where you should take things from. Not that I will work so hard, I will make my state to be so great, people will come, they will consume, and you want the tax I make from it to be taken to another state where they seem to be where they seem to be sleeping on what to do. With this,
right,
you see every state, there will be innovation from the state. With
all
this,
right,
you
all right. So let me go back to Mr. Oyedele. You mentioned earlier that some states like Lagos and Rivers, they pay more or they generate more, but they get back little. Should the appeal go in the way of the state That means that is if the 36 states of the Federation now collect VAT, which of the states are going to be on the receiving end, perhaps getting less?
Yeah, so unfortunately, all the states will be getting less. And this is very simple. So Lagos State is credited with contributing about 60 to 65% of VAT collection within the Nigerian territory, so within all the states. But Lagos State has what I call the headquarters effect, so which means all the largest companies in Nigeria are mostly headquartered in Lagos. They remit all their VAT nationally in Lagos. So take MTN, for example. So if you start collecting by every state, you no longer be able to do that. You have to break down your VAT from where the activities took place. So even Lagos State will be surprised that its own contribution will go down significantly from what is being reported at the moment. Rivers State last year, about 42 billion was generated from Rivers State, and shared to Rivers State and the local government was 39 billion. So the balance is just like cost of collection. Now, where all the states, so the states are likely to be neutral will be Lagos and Rivers State, but unfortunately, their collection efficiency.
After listening to them, you can see they will always try to dance around issues. They will never say it the way it is. But over here in social media, we speak our mind, we say it the way it is without being politically correct. The truth remains the truth. It doesn't matter you accept it or not. Where we are now, it was British that brought us into this very state where we are. British started these very lies of pushing false statistics, telling us that desert is more populated than riverine area. Pushing maps that doesn't hold water, giving us a map that the southern part of Nigeria is a very small place, while the northern part of Nigeria is almost 75% of the land. A false map. Watch it, false map. British have committed committed so many crimes against the indigenous tribes in continental Nigeria. They have committed a lot of crimes. Committed crime against the indigenous people of the continental Nigeria, and they are not apologetic about it. They do not want to make amends. They don't want to repent. Not that they don't know. They know what is happening. They know the crime they have committed. They know the kind of death that is happening in Nigeria. But what are they doing? They are doing nothing. Even when the topic is being raised in their House of Commons or among them, they walk away. You see them stand up and leaving. It doesn't concern. They don't care. Something that has to do with death, they don't care. Watch and see what I'm telling you to let you know that the British know what is happening in Nigeria, but they choose not to do anything.
Who have died, people are reported to have died in coordinated attacks on around 50 communities in Plateau State, in Barkin Ladi. These attacks began on the 22nd of June and they lasted until the 24th of June. The majority of the victims were women and children. At one location, 120 were killed as they returned from the funeral of an elderly member of the Church of Christ in Nations. A dawn-to-dusk curfew was established, and as I heard firsthand yesterday from the Honourable Kweyum Rimande Shawulu, a member of the Nigerian Federal House of Representatives, the area remains tense. The most recent episode is shocking, but it's also the latest in an extended pattern of violence that's become all too common across Nigeria, particularly in the Middle Belt and increasingly in some of the more southern states. Last week, Sam Brownback, the United States Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom, was in Nigeria. On one single day during his visit, there were 6 suicide bombings by Boko Haram, the largest number ever on any single day. And as we will hear later from my noble and courageous friend, Lady Chuks, who's personally visited these areas, these attacks have been systematic and go on unabated. Human rights groups like CSW have catalogued every reported attack. While it may not be definitive, the list attempts to provide as comprehensive a record as possible of known attacks and of the death toll in the Middle Belt during the first quarter of this year, underlining the critical need for urgent and effective intervention. I've sent many of these details to ministers, but in the interest of time, I'll give the House just a snapshot from a few days in April of this year. On April the 10th, 10 were killed in Ukum in Benue State. On April The 10th, 51 were killed in Wukari, Taraba State. On April the 12th, 41 were killed in Ukum in Benue State. April the 12th, 2 were killed in Makurdi in Benue State. And on April the 12th, another 41 were killed in Ukum in Benue State. The charity Aid to the Church in Need, on whose board I sit in a pro bono capacity, has also documented appalling acts of violence which I sent to the government. In April, during early morning mass, militants attacked the parish in Makurdi, killing 2 priests and 17 members of the congregation. ACN have also highlighted the 15,000 orphans and 5,000 widows in the northeast, an area that's come under repeated attack from Boko Haram. And I'd be grateful when we hear from the Noble Baroness, the Minister, to hear what humanitarian aid we've been able to provide for victims. My Lord, CSW report that in the first quarter of 2018, Fulani herder militia perpetrated at least 106 attacks in central Nigeria. The death toll in these 4 months, purely from herder militia violence, stands at 1,061. An additional 11 attacks recorded on communities in the south of the country claimed a further 21 lives. One spokesman has said, and I quote, "It is purely a religious jihad in disguise." There has certainly been a long history of disputes between nomadic herders and farming communities right across the Sahel over land, grazing and scarce resources. I myself have visited places like Darfur where I've seen that firsthand. And it's true that attacks by herder militia have on occasion led to retaliatory violence as communities conclude they can no longer rely on government for protection or justice. Between January the 1st and May the 1st of this year, there were 60 such attacks. However, compared with the recent escalation in attacks by well-armed Fulani herders upon predominantly Christian farming communities, the asymmetry is stark and must be acknowledged by the UK government in their characterisation, their narrative of this violence. My Lords, I ask the Minister, given the escalation, frequency, organisation and asymmetry of Fulani attacks, does she still believe references to farmer-herder clashes still suffice? In the face of the violence collected by impartial human rights groups, there's no place here for, as it were, moral equivalence, nor is it sufficient for the government to merely urge all sides to seek dialogue and to avoid violence. I would urge the Noble Baroness to revisit the narrative, to conduct her own assessment, and to either confirm or dispute the data that I've given to the House already, and others, I know other noble lords will do the same. Some local observers have gone so far as to describe the rising attacks as a campaign of ethno-religious cleansing. Armed with sophisticated weaponry, including AK-47s, and in at least one, a rocket launcher and rocket-propelled grenades, the Fulani militia have murdered more men, women and children in 2015, 16 and 17 than even Boko Haram, destroying, overrunning and seizing property and land and displacing tens of thousands of people. This is organised and systematic. We must ask where this group of nomadic herdsmen is getting such sophisticated weaponry from. I wonder if the Noble Baroness has had a chance to look into this, and if not, if she'll give an undertaking to do so. Whilst recognising complex underlying causes of this violence, we must also acknowledge a growing degree of religious motivation behind this violence. The local chapter of the Christian Association of Nigeria recently revealed that herdsmen have destroyed over 500 churches in Benue State alone since 2011. Perhaps the Minister could also respond to reports that during many of these well-planned attacks by Fulani militia, their cattle are nowhere in sight, and they're often reported by survivors to have shouted Ali Akbar during those attacks. Perhaps the Minister could comment on this undoubtedly sectarian aspect of the escalating violence. Beyond intermittent verbal condemnations, I can't see much practical action that's been taken to end the violence, which has emboldened perpetrators even further. And my Lords, moreover, in the light of such an inadequate response thus far, communities will, and indeed already are, beginning to feel they can no longer rely on government for protection or justice, and a few take matters into their own hands. In the words of an Anglican canon in the Middle Belt, and I quote, "Why do so many security service personnel spend their time guarding our politicians rather than protecting our people?" May I also put on record a recent statement to President Buhari issued by the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria. Amongst other things, the statement said this: Since the President who appointed the heads of the nation's security agencies has refused to call them to order, even in the face of the chaos and barbarity into which our country has been plunged, we are left with no choice but to conclude that they are acting on a script that he approves of. If the President cannot keep our country safe, then he automatically loses the trust of the citizens. He should no longer continue to preside over the killing fields and mass graveyards that our country has become. That's a pretty awesome statement from a bishops' conference in a country. But concern about partiality was also raised on the 24th of March by the highly respected former Army Chief of Staff and Defence Minister, Lieutenant General Theophilus E. Danyuma, who stated that the armed forces were, I quote, not neutral, they collude in the ethnic cleansing, his words, of riverine states by the Fulani militia. He insisted that, again I quote, villagers must defend themselves because depending on the armed forces will result in them dying one by one. The ethnic cleansing must stop in all the states of Nigeria, otherwise Somalia will be child's play. I'd like to hear, therefore, what practical steps the UK government is taking to work with the government of Nigeria in developing effective solutions to bring an end to this escalating violence. And perhaps the Noble Baroness can tell us whether there is a strategic plan and what representations have been made directly. Now, I know that solutions are complex, but there's nothing to stop the Minister calling on the government of Nigeria to recalibrate security arrangements and resource its forces as a matter of urgency in order to offer sufficient protection to vulnerable communities. My Lords, as I close, I want to thank Noble Lords who are participating in today's debate and take Noble Lords back to where I began, to the more than 200 people, mostly women and children, who were killed in sustained attacks on 50 villages by armed Fulani militia just this past weekend. People are dying daily. On June the 18th, in the Daily Telegraph, the Archbishop of Abuja described what he called, I quote, territorial conquest and ethnic cleansing, and said, the very survival of our nation is at stake. This alone should serve as a wake-up call. Are we to watch one of Africa's greatest countries go the way of Sudan? Will we be indifferent as radical forces sweep across the Sahel, seeking to replace diversity and difference with a monochrome ideology that will be imposed with violence on those who refuse to comply? We mustn't wait for a genocide to happen as it did in Rwanda. Ominously, my Lords, history could very easily be repeated.
My Lords, I would like to thank the Noble Lord, Lord Alton, for securing, unfortunately, a timely debate and declaring interest as the project director of the
After watching this video, you can see, at the beginning, as soon as Nigeria was mentioned, they begin to walk away one by one. They begin to walk away. They don't want to have anything to do with it. Even though they were the one that planted this evil that we are all facing today, they don't want to make corrections. They know what is going on. They know the killing that is going on. They know the way Christians have been killed. And these British are supposedly a Christian country, selling out their own fellow Christians. They don't care. They don't want to do anything. Instead, every time they invite Buhari to go there for educational summits, they invite him there to come and take treatment or whatever, knowing fully well the crime he's committed in Nigeria and people that are dying on a daily basis, which is obvious. From the video, you can see that they know. It's not that they don't know. They know everything that is going on, but yet they support the evil because it benefits them. That is why we say nobody can give us our freedom. We will fight our freedom out. Prepare to take your freedom. Defend yourself by all means possible. Do everything you can do to defend yourself. Nobody will defend you. Nobody will fight for you. It is time for us to take our freedom, free ourselves from this very captivity, and go into a nation that we will be proud of. May Chukwu Kabiama guide and protect us. May Chukwu Kabiama strengthen us. May Chukwu Kabiama continue to give him word, continue to strengthen him, give him good health wherever he is, and very soon bring him back to us so that we can start a new nation called Biafra. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is coming out. It doesn't matter what they do. They will kill us. We will kill them. At the end of the day, Biafra will come. Oduduwa will march. Every indigenous tribe in that country of God, Nigeria, will be free. Whether Britain likes it or not, we will all be free. Thank you so much for watching our remembrance. Bye-bye. See you again on the next video.